research has shown that, and this is a direct quote from one of 10 best-selling college textbooks in the entire United States, a psychology textbook, authored by David Myers, a professor at Hope College in Holland, Michigan. Research has shown that sexual orientation is a natural, enduring disposition, most clearly so for males. And two, the world would generally be a happier and healthy place if for all people love, sex, and marriage went together. It's only because I, and this is Professor Myers, inserted the words for all people that this basically conservative message becomes, for some people, upsetting. I'm not going to go into or repeat all the citations, all the studies, all the science, all the research that Dave Myers cites, summarizes, and teaches, but I will repeat for emphasis. 1, sexual orientation is a natural, enduring disposition. 2, the world would generally be a happier and healthier place if for all people, love, sex, and marriage went together. I'm also not going to get into all the various reasons or theories about why sex and love and marriage between people of the same sex so personally frightens people. Actually, I think these issues often frighten people in opposite sex relationships. If all these issues were just personal or just private, we would leave people to their own personal private course of their march. Their fears and beliefs are the basis for laws that determine our rights and responsibilities. These personal fears and religious beliefs have been put into laws that affect our private and personal actions and our public life. For some religious institutions, they're critical to maintaining the established hierarchy. And of course, people make money from discrimination, or they get more state benefits if they're in a group with more privilege and legal protection than their social status, but you all know that. How are wedge issues used? I've been working in politics with politicians almost all my life. And I know you know that fear and prejudice drive lots of voters, and fear and prejudice are easily managed. So I asked myself, who votes because they're motivated by the fear of marriage equality? Which candidates support marriage equality? Which candidates oppose marriage equality and use the issue, not just gay marriage, but gayness, period, to frighten people and to get elected? I've promised you a story about Hope College and Holland, Michigan, and how this ties together. And it does start with Dusty Black's visit to Western Michigan, to Holland, in 2009. He came to Holland to film a movie, enticed, I'm sure, by the Michigan film tax credit, and perhaps also the beautiful location on the shore of Lake Michigan. In October 2009, he was invited and then disinvited to speak to some students in a class on campus. Disinvited by the college administration. And I would say, if you look at pages 55A to page 59, you'll see some of the coverage that that disinvitation got. The college administration said it based its decision on a 1995 Hope College written policy that gays or gay-supporting groups couldn't use campus facilities. Alicia and I will affirm that this policy was largely unknown before this series of events. The conversations and controversy began. Lots and lots of letters were written in the newspaper, the Holland Sentinel. My mother clipped them all. One of the reasons for your compilation. But I wince as I remember the letters to the editor, filled with hate that she would read to me over the phone. I would hear the anguish and pain in her voice. Informal groups sprang up, and because someone in the college administration said Hope isn't ready, of course the first group was called Hope is Ready. A gay and lesbian alumni group was formed through Facebook, of course. I recently had the honor of being asked to serve on the board. In March of 2010, students and alumni groups appealed publicly to the college to drop this policy. In April of 2010, I wrote a long letter after a lot of thought to the College Board of Trustees and the President of the essentially coming out what I took 4 pages. When I signed it, I also mentioned that I had received the 2003 Outstanding Hope Alumni Award for my work in Washington, D.C. The next month, May 2010, the college officially announced it would not remove its policy, but might amend it at some point in the future. Then in June 2010, the California Supreme Court held that the state constitution's equal protection and extended to marriage between 2 people regardless of their gender. And now the fight for marriage equality took really a dramatic public nationwide turn. Take a look at the article on page 7. Local money fights gay marriage. 2 prominent West Michigan philanthropists are writing big checks to campaigns in California and Florida to keep the issue of gay marriage front and center. Look at page 9. California gay marriage battle begins big bucks from Dutch. The largest single donor to Prop 8 in California? From Holland, Michigan. The issue was spreading in Holland, too, from the campus to the wider community. A group called Holland is Ready formed, because it turns out the city of Holland's anti-discrimination policy does not include sexual orientation and gender identity. July 2010, the Holland Human Relations Commission starts to explore whether to add sexual orientation and gender identity to its non-discrimination ordinance. October 2010, turn to page 71. Page 71. The Tulip City's decision. Is conservative Holland ready to take a stand on the People in Holland are coming out, people in Holland are taking stands. And on page 75, I've circled it, it's kind of hard to see in the upper left hand, you can see my mother. The Human Relations Commission voted shocked unanimously on Thursday, October 21st, 2010, to recommend adding sexual orientation and gender identity to the city's anti-discrimination ordinance and sent the proposed amendment on to the city council. Holland is ready, continued its work. People came to city council meetings, people talked to their individual council members, and everyone wondered when the city council was going to take up the issue and vote. Not for 8 months. Not until June of this year. June 2011. Perhaps this is a coincidence. There was an understanding among organizers that the council was split in the fall of 2010 in favor of the amendment by 1 vote, and everyone knew that one of the supporters was known to be moving from Holland. He did leave. Someone was appointed to fill out the term, and the word was that the new appointee was against the amendment. June 15, 2011, packed city council meeting. My mom was there again, 89 and proud. And after midnight, after hours of moving testimony and from everything I heard from my friends and from my friends there, almost all the testimony in favor of adding the amendment. The city council voted 5-4 against the amendment. My mother said she was shocked that people pulled out prepared statements. She said even after they heard it. Holland didn't give up. Holland is ready, hasn't given up. Everyone began organizing for the upcoming elections that were held just a week and a half ago. Ironically, the 4 pro-equality seats on the city council were the 4 up for re-election. It's a rotating election for city council. The three pro-equality incumbents won, and the person running for the open seat, the pro-equality person running for the open seat, won by 18 votes. An interesting aside, after the June 2011 City Council vote, when it became clear we weren't going to give up, we weren't going to go away, we weren't going to accept defeat, they were going to continue and keep bringing the issue to the City Council until a vote. Anti-equality individuals and organizations were heard to pledge they would finance the campaigns of anyone who ran against one of the pro-equality candidates. Go back to pages 7 and 9. Prominent Western Michigan funders behind the opposition to gay marriage in California and Georgia. For emphasis, and let me repeat, after that City Council vote in June 2011, we heard that those same large donors to the national anti-equality campaign promised to fund the campaigns of anyone who ran against the pro-equality incumbents in the vote. After all, this was their hometown. 18 votes, one by 18 votes. The work in Holland continues. The work in everyone's hometown continues. On November 8th, in another election in another state in Iowa, this was really an important election for us. And if you look first at pages 42 and 43, I think an article from Newsweek, the caucus kingmaker Bob Vanderplaats offers GOP candidates a choice: join his crusade against gay marriage or lose Iowa. Now look at page 56 and read about the election of Liz Truss. Really, you know, it's not just marriage equality they're against. The underlying fear and hate can be dead. It's time for the next set of articles. Look at page 93. Death and glory of the city. See on page 93, there are just two dates: December 1st, 1966, and April 12th, 1996. You know what those dates are, those are the birth and death dates in that issue. Thank you, Charles Blow, page 95, for talking about hate crimes. And if you look at that chart he's got, and you add up the gay-related hate crimes, for some reason are broken up into various categories there, I think you'll find the sum of them interesting and disturbing. And read the New York Times article from September of this year, pages 98 to 100. Thank you, New York Times, for making sure that an article about bullying, a word I consider euphemism, is attached to statistics about suicide. Read about the extremes of how same-sex relationships are treated around the world in that New York Times article on around page 105, dated October 9th. And look at the chart that shows countries that recognize gay marriage and juxtapose that with countries that sanction death for same-sex relationships. Thank you, Frank Liddy. Speaking of death, my little section entitled Obituaries. Barbara Greer, a feminist and lesbian and path-breaking publisher whose obituary was just in this past Sunday's Los Angeles Times, too late for me to include. She started Naiad Press. I can't tell you what an impact, I could tell you, I should say, what an impact she made on that press, the Naiad Press started. Marty Manford, page 112, Arthur Evans, page 114, Franklin Cavaney, page 115, a person with whom I worked in Washington, D.C. on our issues, and who was with us and his partner on June 2nd, 2009 at the New York Times building when they had that reception for all the same-sex couples whose marriage announcements had been in the New York Times. And take a look at page 21 for an interesting article about the symbolic importance of marriage announcements. When Catherine and I got married, my mother asked if it was going to be in the Hope College Alumni News. And my tennis partner from Hope, Rosie today. She knows that probably can understand why I kind of blanched. And she said, well, I think it should be in there. Of course, one had never been in. And instead of and she said, I'm going to go down to the alumni office. And instead of taking our marriage certificate and copy of that to the alumni office, she took the New York Times article. Because for her, if you were in the New York Times, you were legitimate. Why did I put these obituaries in? Because I hope mine will be, she never gave up. She never stopped working for justice and equality from the equal rights of women to whatever issue I'm working on. Because as you know, we write our obituaries as we live. Stories of lives lived publicly are more complicated. Victories for equality in the complicated public arena, local and state politics, national politics, take more work, more time, more work. They're simply more at stake at each level. And I put in an interesting example on pages 110 and 111 about the crumbling of the Smithsonian Institution's leadership after House Speaker John Boehner and the Catholic League's William Donahue and the Family Research Council called for the removal of a video installation in an exhibition in the National Portrait Gallery. You may remember reading about this. And remember, back on page 9, because I know you've read that article now, the largest single individual donor to Prop 8 from Holland, Michigan, was married. Her first marriage was to the man who co-founded the Family Research Council, an organization which promotes traditional marriage and family in national policy. Why did they want the video removed? Because there were 11 seconds in a 13-minute video made 23 years ago, and I quote from the Washington Post, 11 seconds that showed images of a decaying crucifix to lament the failure of many Christians to act with compassion in the AIDS pandemic's early years. We should all lament that failure. Back to obituaries and graveyard. The great Frank Rich op-ed piece from the New York Times, June of 2009, pages 108 and 109, that has the subtitle, "The Bravery of Stonewall is Unmatched by Washington." The description of the character in the play Southern Comfort, based on the 2001 documentary about the final year in the life of the female-to-male transsexual Robert Eads, and I quote, "A wiry Georgia backwoods type who died of ovarian cancer in one last cruel trip to nature. Mr. Eads had to travel miles for medical care after being refused treatment at numerous hospitals for fear of unsettling other patients. Bravery, fear, discrimination, death." But what else does that article say on page 160? What distinguishes both the movie and this respectful adaptation is less the sorrow of the haunting true story than the spirit of forgiveness and tolerance that infuses it. Does it get better? Will it get better? I'm always so conscious of the passive voice, the absence of responsibility, the passive voice. What will our obituaries say? Will they say we have made it better? I was so impressed with the fact that this says, make it better. Jackie, I think, is that who got this to change? I'm so impressed by that. Final note, I've included some additional resources starting on page 117, noting, of course, that women who read are dangerous. Several important works by one of the most important contemporary thinkers, in my opinion, Martha Nussbaum, beginning on that page, starting on page 119. And a short piece about her from the New York Times Magazine on page 125. Professor Nussbaum teaches in the philosophy department of law school and the divinity school in Chicago. Some references again to David Myers at Hope College, one of the most noted authors and thinkers about the intersection of sex and marriage and religion in the United States. And finally, articles reminding us that there are other issues intertwined and unanswered that so inform our thinking and should inform our thought. Pages 132 through 134, racial prejudice and discrimination. Page 135, the struggle to mimic every day, everywhere, every face for control of our own lives. Pages 136 and 137, political power and the use of religion by nation states. But these related topics are way beyond our discussion today. Take a lot more expertise than I have and more time than we have this afternoon. So I would like to thank you again. Alicia, I don't know if you really started, but for finding me, and giving me my first chance to give money to the University of Michigan. But you reminded me that we all need to give back. And I needed to remember in a tangible way how being here changed my life. Thank you to the